Hey guys, what's up? How are you today? I'm Michele Arbolato, and today we will go through the whiskey from around the world. We will learn the main feature of the whiskey of every country, at least the most important one. Scotland, America, Ireland and Japan. We will go over this whiskey in an easy way to understand the main characteristics. I'm Michele Arbolato. I'm an Italian sommelier based in London. I started the prestigious Italian sommelier school and in a few sommelier schools in London, and I'm here to help you to sail through the wine and spirit world easily, in an easy way to understand, in a funny way. So if this is the channel for you, please subscribe to the channel and give the thumb up. So let's start with the Scottish whisky. Scottish whiskies are probably the most famous one, the most well-known one, and Scotland is divided in 5 regions plus one, an extra one, so 6 regions in total. So we have the Speyside, we have the Highlands, we have the Lowlands, we have the Campbeltown, we have the Islay and the Islands, that the extra region. Speyside whiskies are sourced around Edinburgh. It is a small region that with a high number, however, of distilleries. Over 60 distilleries are situated in here. Why? Because there are a high concentration of rivers and streams that they source, where they can source pure water, basically, for the whiskey. And also it is well connected to Edinburgh, so for the shipping process is easily Speyside whiskies are usually double distilled, single malt. We will go over these blended malt, single malt in another video, in more details. And there are usually notes of honey, pear, apple, floral notes, nutmeg, cherry cask and spicy notes. One of the most important and famous brands, leave it, the Glenfiddich, Macallan, Balvenie and Speybar, just to mention some. Then we do have the Highlands, that is probably the biggest region in Scotland that produce, in terms of area, whiskey. Highlands whiskey are usually rich in iodine, medicinal notes, slightly smoked or peated. One of the most famous brand is Bourbon, for instance. Very well made whiskeys in here. We do have also the Lowlands on the south part of Scotland. Lowlands used to be a quite a big region in terms of number of distilleries. However, now only 3 distilleries are left, and Lowlands whiskies are usually rich in notes of honeysuckle, toffee, toast, cinnamon, citrus, floral notes with a sweet finish. Glenfiddich is one of the most famous brand. The thing I want to mention is that usually in Scotland they used to age the whiskey in cask. Usually they are used cask. They could be cherry cask or from American oak cask. Generally are not new cask, but not always as well. Okay. Is another small region in the southwest part of Scotland. It used to be very important in the past. However, now only 3 distilleries are left. Important because they used to use the port in here to ship oversee the whiskey. One of the most famous one left now is Springbank. Generally the whiskies from here are smoky, dried fruit. They can be peaty. They can have a bit of vanilla, toffee notes, because it usually depends on which oak and cask they use. However, there are only 3 distilleries left in time. That is actually. Important area that is the Islay. It's a small island with 5 distilleries on it. Two of them are quite famous, very well known, as Lafroy and Lagavulin, that probably you heard about. And they are famous because they are heavily peated, heavily smoked, with these notes of medicinal notes, carchoal, smoke, torba, earthiness, quite rusty and punchy whiskey, but I do love it personally. Then we do have the extra region, that islands, that is on the west part of Scotland, an extra, I would say, because it's not recognized on paper in documents, but in style it is. Basically, it is composed this region with a lot of small islands, and in these small islands there are some distilleries. Sometimes they can be also sometimes the only thing in this island, and they are quite famous because they usually live to age the whiskey in cask next to the sea, where the waves can reach and wet the barrels, basically. They could be easily, you feel this feeling of minerality of your dying from the sea easily, but they can be also slightly smoked and peated. One of the biggest and most famous brand is Talisker, for instance. If you are enjoying the content, and if you think that the spirit world and the wine world are your world, basically, as mine, please subscribe to the channel, give the thumb up and click the notification bell so you won't miss any new video, and you will help me to make more videos in the future. Another important country that produces whiskey is Ireland, with the Irish whiskies. They were very popular 150 years ago, 100 years ago. Then with the World War, everything started to shut down. However, they are starting to become popular again, once again, and they are quite famous because they are distilled 3 times, not always, however, and they need to be aged for at least 3 years in cask. Can be cherry cask, American oak cask. Usually they are older cask, not new, and they are more subtle, more mellow than other whiskies from other part of the world. 2 of the most famous brands, probably one of the 2 for sure you know, is Jameson whiskey, owned by the big Diageo group, and also Teeling is very. And then we do have the Japanese whiskey. Japan started to produce whiskey in the beginning of last century. Japanese went to study to how to craft and how to master the whiskey process in Scotland, in the Speyside mainly. So that's why the Japanese whiskies are quite similar to the Speyside Scottish ones. So Kings, apple, slightly spices, floral notes are the main feature. Suntory is probably the most well-known and well-regarded whiskey of Another great country that produces whiskey is America, with its Bourbon whiskey. It can be produced in any state of the country, but especially a great amount of distilleries is located in Tennessee, New Orleans, and New York states. They have to be aged at least 3 years in new barrels, in new oak. Can be sherry oak or American oak, so this gives to the whiskey a bit more mellow feature, a bit more vanilla and white spices notes that can be recognized from other countries in the world, and it has to be made with 51% at least of the grain mentioned in the label. So for instance, if it is made from corn, it has to be made from 51% of corn malt. One of my favorite is Baby Hudson Hudson from New York. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. We do have Scotland with 6 regions, 5+1. They can be from single malt, they can be distilled twice, once, peated, smoked, unpeated, unsmoked. So we do have quite a wide range of features. Then we do have the Irish whiskey that usually are distilled 3 times. Bourbon whiskies from America that are usually a bit more rich in vanilla notes and white spices notes and wood. And then we have the Japanese whiskies that are quite popular now. They're becoming quite famous and they are closer to the Speyside whiskey from Scotland. So unoaked, unsmoked, unpeated, with a bit of floral notes and apple and fruity notes on it, a bit of honey as well. Okay, so these are the main 4 countries. So if you enjoyed the video, please give the thumb up and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, please. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.